welcome to episode 3 of the Hoofington Post. I'm Donut Steele.
I'm Victor Felton.
Top story is sick with the pony pox today, so he won't be joining us. But
Yes.
we do have a special guest with us today for our show. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I am DJ Wintergreen, except I'm not a DJ, so you can just call me Wintergreen.
Yeah, he does a lot of wonderful pony music. Today we're going to start off with an episode discussion, then we'll have a brief interview with Wintergreen. Then we will conclude with a discussion of crossovers within the fandom, both in fan fiction and fan art, and how we feel about them. For the moment, let's just get started with the episode discussion. Today's episode, as time of airing, was Hurricane Fluttershy. Victor, what did you think about the episode, since you've got such a wonderful opinion of Fluttershy?
So it was a Fluttershy episode, and of course, if you heard the latest, episode 2 that is, then you all know that I don't particularly enjoy Fluttershy. But thankfully, there was a large amount of both Rainbow Dash and Twilight Sparkle in there, and a couple good spike bits. So that made it at least tolerable. Although there have been some good Fluttershy episodes before, but that was also usually involved most of the main 6. Like, I liked May the Best Pet Win, but that was more of a Rainbow Dash episode anyway. It just featured heavily Fluttershy. But the basic plot of Hurricane Fluttershy is that every year, the Cloudsdale, which creates the clouds and all the weather and stuff, it chooses one place, or city, town, area, we don't really know, it was never made that clear, to provide the water for said rain clouds from said Cloudsdale.
And this year it was decided that Ponyville would be the place to supply it. And the way they get the water into Cloudsdale is not through precipitation or evaporation, because precipitation is the downfall of water. It's not through evaporation because there is no such thing as vapor pressure in Equestria. It's just not how things work.
Science apparently doesn't work there because magic.
Definitely not physics. Pinkie Pie has proven that time and time again.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, the way they get water into Cloudsdale is via giant Pegasus tornado, which apparently acts as a vacuum and brings all the water up into Cloudsdale.
And apparently they need exactly 800 wing power, was it?
Wing power, yeah.
Yes, 800 wing power. The amount of time it took someone to make a horsepower joke was exactly 3 seconds after hearing that.
Yep, maybe even less.
Yeah.
So Paul, what was your opinion about today's episode?
I actually really liked it a lot. Rainbow Dash makes it awesome as normal. But I also really liked Fluttershy's part. I felt she had some really good characterization. She really felt like a likable character. It didn't to me seem like she was just a pushover. It seemed to me like she was someone who just was really nervous around crowds and had bad experience and just had to overcome that. I'm pretty ambivalent towards Fluttershy, but I really liked her in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
In your opinion?
Personally, I feel that it was a very solid episode. I'm not the biggest Fluttershy fan. I do like her. It'd be interesting to see more of the carryover from the Iron Will episode as far as just assertiveness, because it seems that we're continuously going back to square one as far as Fluttershy being assertive in general. It was a lot better in this episode, I think. She was working by herself to overcome that. The whole animal scene where she's talking to the animals and trying to convince herself that she can actually make a difference was kind of interesting. And I liked the whole message at the end. Like, even if you feel that what you contribute is mildly insignificant, it still can be important in the end. I don't know. I think that's a little better moral than a lot of children's shows include. So,
I personally thought the debates going about with how she always just kind of reverts, I didn't really... I thought it was pretty valid with this one, because being assertive towards people and being anxious around failure are two very different things. So she could be more assertive from the Iron Will episode, but I don't really think that has anything to do with her kind of anxiety to perform in public. It's almost like she's a little agoraphobic and just can't really handle the thought of rejection or humiliation.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point, because stage fright and people skills are definitely just a different set of things. I know people who are amazing and great in a social setting, but if you get them up on a stage, they can't say anything to save their lives.
And I'm the opposite. I'm great and amazing on a stage. I'm just the best person you've ever heard do anything on every possible performance thing. But personally, I kind of leave a little bit desired. I'm an all-around great person, but Victor Felton would like to say one more thing.
Yes, and that is, there are 2 points that really stood out to me. The first one was one of the background ponies was actually reusing the eye and hair model of the Cleopatra pony from Luna Eclipse. And then there was also the background music from the montage scene.
Yeah, that was cool. I liked the montage scene.
I loved that music.
Yeah.
And another weird thing or interesting thing, rather, about the episode is we got a lot of derpy. There was so much derpy in this episode. Almost, I don't want to say to an obnoxious degree, but it was just like derpy was there all the time for everything. So I think we can lay to rest our fears that maybe derpy won't be in any more episodes, because she obviously is.
Yeah.
But for all you conspiracy theorists out there, it's very possible that this episode was actually made before the controversy outbroke.
Well, in all probability it was, because Flash animation and that stuff, they usually have like a 3 to 4 month buffer and stuff.
They're done a while before.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So there's still a possible concern that she might be there. Just I thought I'd bring those fears to light.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, by the way.
My pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Wintergreen. Okay, moving on. We're going to have our interview with Wintergreen, since we have him here today. So my first question for you: how did you first hear about My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic, and how did you get into the fandom?
I first heard about it on YouTube watching Know Your Meme videos, and I had never really seen it before, and I just really loved Know Your Meme, and I decided to watch that video because I'd already watched the other ones, and I didn't know it was a meme, or it was very popular on the internet. And at the end of the video, as I'm sure many of you know, they say the only people who hate My Little Pony are those who haven't tried it yet. So I said, what have I had to lose? I'll try it, and I watched 8 or so episodes that night. The first couple I felt were okay, just good enough to watch another one, just nothing really special. But then I don't know exactly where it went along, that it just kind of really hooked me, but I got hooked. And the fandom, I don't really know when I'd say I joined the fandom per se. I guess on my journey through watching them all on YouTube, it was somewhere, I first started watching the show right when Lesson Zero, the third episode of the Lesson Zero was the most recent episode. And I think it was after I had watched that I got kind of curious, like EQD, because I had vaguely heard what they were, and decided with a sense of morbid curiosity to check them out and see what they were like. And I was entertaining. There was some really good music, some good art. Just kind of got dragged in from there.
How long have you been making music for? Like, was Ponies your first stuff, or have you had previous experience?
Ponies is my first stuff. I've been making music for about a month and a half now. I started music, per se, when I was about 5. I got piano lessons and had those until I was about in junior year of high school. And I also had violin lessons from about 4th grade until my junior year of high school. So I have a fair bit of music in me, but almost all of that skill is completely wasted on my current processes. None of it has to do with technique.
So what do you use to make your music? What are the programs that you most currently use?
There's a program called FL Studio 10, formerly known as Fruity Loops. It's a sequencer, so I can just put all my sounds in it and just arrange them and time them. And it's where I also make these loops and sequences where it plays the sound. It plays on the piano roll, which just makes the sound happen that way. There's a lot of other stuff that people use, which I don't because it's expensive. I use a lot of plugins in FL Studio, like Massive, Nexus, just the instruments used in it. But mostly I just use FL Studio in my laptop.
What outside sources have really inspired you in your compositions, or is it just straight from your mind?
That's a tough question. It's kind of, I guess you would say, straight from my mind. Almost all of music composition is just trial and error. Just trying 1,000 things and finding 2 that work and then running with it. That's what the majority of it is. But a lot of my kind of inspirations and sources of emulation come from artists like Archie V and Avicii and Deadmau5, a little bit of Tiesto, just some good techno, good dance, good trance music, house, a lot of that stuff.
All right, a very important question. Who is best pony?
Rainbow Dash.
Well, that's a simple answer. Why? Why is Rainbow Dash best pony?
Because she is 20% cooler than everyone else. Because I just really like
In the
her.
jar. Put it in the jar.
Nope.
20% cooler jar.
I really like Rainbow Dash because just the way she's been characterized, syncs up a lot with my own personality. I'm kind of I'm a arrogant not arrogant, but I like to showboat a little bit, and I'm pretty insecure, and that's just pretty much her in a nutshell. But I'm also very competitive, so. And she's just the most interesting, I feel, of all the characters. She's just got the most there. I also like Vinyl Scratch because, obviously, her hair is blue.
Yes, that's very true. So, what current projects are you working on?
I'm currently working on a kind of light dubstep song, kind of dubstep trance house, if that makes any sense. It's dark.
Makes perfect sense.
It's dark, minor key, based on Luna. That's kind of what I'm going on, like Luna, Night, stuff like that. That should actually be done pretty soon. I know I haven't released anything for like 3 weeks, close to a month now actually, and that's bad. But I'm also working on an electro song for Applejack, which I just cannot stand. I'm working on a remix, kind of a dance hands-up remix of Circle of Friends. And I'm also working on making the intro and outro for this podcast into a full song.
All right. So for the final question, who are your favorite pony musicians apart from yourself?
I'd probably have to say RGB definitely is probably my favorite. I really like the guy Bronified, does those metal arrangements, I would say. Who else?
Solrak, obviously.
I like Sean NH a lot. Sean NH94 is his name. No, it's Sean NH. Glaze is good.
Oh, yeah, Glaze is very good.
I really like Mike the Microphone. I like his raps a lot, though he does mostly just live streaming now. I like Pony Swag, as everyone does. Just some great raps in there. I like things that can't come to my head at the current moment, but I definitely like them.
Okay then.
Alrighty. So moving on, we're going to have a brief discussion. Now, ponies have kind of been crossed over with everything at this point. So
Everything including themselves.
yeah. Well, that's shipping, but
Well, no,
that's
I
a
mean
topic for another day.
previous generations of My Little Ponies.
That's
There's the
nice.
fanfic Gen 3, which has Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie meeting their Gen 3 selves. Terrifying stuff ensues.
So, Victor, what is your opinion on crossovers for the fandom?
I actually really like crossovers. I mean, they take these two separate worlds and see how they combine, but sometimes they're not done very well. I mean, I've seen a lot of ones where it's just like, oh, the main six are now in this world, which sort of sucks, but usually the best crossovers you'll find are ones that take something and put it into Equestria. Those are the ones I really like, such as there's this one which actually had the StarCraft 2 and Jim Raynor, and all of that cast came into Equestria, and they brought the Zerg with them, and stuff ensues. But the problem is that fanfic only made it to 4 parts and then ceased to exist. But there was also 2 fanfics, actually. One called Blinky Pie. I don't know if either of you have read it. It's a crossover with Terry Pratchett's universe, Discworld, where Pinkie Pie is actually the granddaughter of Binky, that's his name, Death's horse. So during that stuff, Pinkie Pie becomes Death. Actually becomes Death, yes. And then the second crossover that was actually also Pratchettian, although not really, it's significantly less so, it was more just because there's 2 types of crossover. There's just the straight character crossover, and then there's the idea crossover, where the things are sort of merged. And the other one that I am thinking of is called Mort, which basically takes the idea of there being a death character and puts it into Equestria. So basically Equestria now has this death as an entity, and it's very similar to the Discworld death. And unfortunately that also made it to 9 chapters, then cease to exist. So basically, everything that I love dies.
Ironically. No, it's not ironic.
No.
Coincidentally, they have to do with death.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of crossovers as well. The only fanfic I ever wrote was crossover. If I ever write a fanfic again, it will be crossover. Because I don't know what my strange obsession with crossovers are, but I love games like Marvel vs. Capcom, that sort of weird thing. But I don't know. I love the fan art and all the sort of fan fictions because almost everything is a pony crossover now, except for Sword of Truth. Writers, I want to see a Sword of Truth fan fiction. If one doesn't exist, I will make it myself because it needs to happen. But like just last night, there's apparently a Watchmen crossover fanfic now where after Rorschach is killed by Dr. Manhattan, he appears in Equestria. I haven't read it yet. But
I've not had time to look at it.
it looks interesting. And it's just kind of amazing that we can make so many crossovers and that a lot of them are really good. Fallout Equestria, for one. That'll have to be
Sweet Celestia Fallout Equestria.
an episode topic in and of itself. Paul, what are your opinions on crossover? Wintergreen, what are your opinions on crossovers?
I find them amusing, but I don't really read any fanfics, so I couldn't really give an educated opinion, though I do find the pictures that accompany the resulting stories amusing. Couldn't really say one way or the other.
Alrighty. So with that, I think we're going to wrap up today's episode. Hopefully we'll have Top Story in with us next time. For next episode, we will be discussing the fanfiction Allegrezza.
We probably mispronounced that, but we'll figure out how to get it correctly next time.
That's correctly.
That's correct, Victor. Allegrezza. Learned a language.
No, I refuse.
It has my favorite pony in it. Octavia. Hooray.
That's my favorite pony in it. Hooray.
It does not have my favorite pony in it.
Me?
You are not my favorite pony.
You're nobody's favorite pony, Paul. Wintergreen.
Okay.
We're going to edit that out. This is going to be bad.
Okay.jpg.
Alright. So thank you for listening. I'm Donut Steel.
I'm Victor Felton.
And I am Wintergreen.
We still haven't received any emails from you. We want to hear your opinions, suggestions on what we should discuss in the future.
We shake our hooves angrily in your general direction.
Again, our email address is thehoofingtonpost, all one word, @gmail.com.
And that'll be in the crotch bar.
What?
That's what it's called. The
Alright.
YouTube description box is called the crotch bar.
Okay.
You didn't know that?
Never
No.
heard it described as such.
Well,
That's
whatever
what
you
it's
say,
called,
Victor
because,
Felton.
like, when they take the image, it's usually from about the waist up, so it's the crotch bar. Because it appears directly below the image. Have you guys seriously never heard of that?
No, I've never heard of the term crotch bar. You're listening to the Huffington Post. This has been issue 3. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.